Hello, welcome to the tower. Here we are again. Today we are going to speak about a very interesting topic. It's a hot topic and it's probably a bit techy, but it's going to be on the top of the table of many news, many magazines and a lot of articles in the next months and years. It's called brain-computer interfaces. Let me go directly to the presentation of today. We are going to see this topic. This topic is one of the main enablers of the future of robotics, transhumanism, and all of the technologies that will transform our lives in the next years. Let me start saying that we are going to see first, this is the final slide, by the way. The first slide is that let me explain what is a brain-computer interface. It's a very easy to understand topic. It's just a technology that allows us to connect our brain with a physical device, normally an electronic circuit. And normally it's a computer. It's a computer, or it can be a smartphone or any smart electronic device. And this is the way we will use to enhance the possibilities we have today with the digital world. Why is that? Because today we have to use very inefficient ways of communication with our electronic devices. We have to use a keyboard, a mouse, or even we can speak to our phone. Our phone can speak to us, or you have probably experienced Siri or Amazon Echo or Google, whatever. This is not efficient at all, and you know it. It's most convenient. It's more convenient to use sometimes the keyboard and also the display to see the things. But this is going to change in the next years because we are going to connect our brain directly to the digital devices. And this is something that will be done this way. Let me put it a bit larger. So the idea is that your brain produces some signals, electronic signals. If you had the opportunity to watch my video about artificial intelligence, there we explained about how neurons work in the brain and how we replicate them as artificial neurons in the digital space. The idea is that neurons, I invite you to go to that video and check the physics behind the brain to understand how neurons work. And in the end, you have electronic pulses in the brain that are produced by electricity. So if there is electricity in the brain, you can acquire that signal with an electronic device. Then you need to pre-process this signal, because the problem with the brain is that there are millions of signals in parallel, running in parallel. And how do you measure that? You normally plug an electronic device, you plug your microphone, your headset, whatever, to get a signal in your brain. You don't have any outlet to plug any wire to the brain. So it's something that we need. We will see now some techniques, but we need an efficient measure to an efficient technique to measure the signals in the brain. We need to clean these signals to make them readable, and then we have to extract the feature. What do we want to measure? So we want to measure a specific thought, we want to measure a movement, an idea, the image that we are seeing through our eyes, whatever. We need to extract that information and then do some classification in terms of what we want this information to do, and then we provide that interface to the digital world, to any computer, any smartphone, the cloud, whatever. Okay, this is a technical definition about how brain-computer interfaces work. The idea behind that is that we have two kinds of brain-computer interfaces. We have one kind of brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, that are unidirectional. That means the information only goes in one direction. It can go from your brain to the electronics, and so you can control external devices. For example, you could control your TV or your TV remote, or you could play a game, for example, using your brain. It's a unidirectional information from your brain to control an external device, or it can be used also to monitor the brain activity. So if you want, if probably in healthcare, if anyone wants to see if your brain is producing some issues, or you have more activity or less activity than normal, this kind of interface can dump the information coming from your brain to a digital device to store the information. The opposite direction is also possible, is the way an electronic device can influence your brain. So that is probably more ambitious and is more futuristic, but it's not far from now. There are some sensors for physical disabilities, for example. And there are, since many years, there are some sensors, some for example, for sound, there are some sensors that you put behind your ear, and then they are connected magnetically to your brain, so you can hear the sound even if you are deaf. Okay, so by nature, this is something that already exists, and the same it's being experienced, for example, for vision. There are artificial eyes that come with cameras that can see and then feed this information, these images, to your brain using different technologies. So this is another possibility. But the most disruptive change, the major breakthrough in BCI, is the bidirectional information. Why is that? Because it will fully integrate the brain with any other computer. Any computing power external to our brain can be connected and sharing information with between the brain and the computer. So we may think in our brain, or we may use the information, calculate it and compute it in an external artificial brain, and we can feed that information to our brain. We can check, we can store, for example, our data, our memory can be stored in an external device. You could use a pen drive, an external USB memory plugged into your brain, and you can expand your memory capabilities. If bidirectional communication is possible between your brain and an electronic device, you will have an additional capability of storing, computing, etc., etc. And this is what we call superhumans. So superhumans are people that connect digital devices to their brains, and they get more memory, they become smarter, they have better, for example, more capabilities in vision or in hearing, whatever. They can see the infrared, they can see X-rays. It's endless possibility if you can connect that. The next step, let me tell you, this is not near in the future. Probably it's many years until we see that. I'm not sure if I personally will see that. Is transhumans. What is transhumans? It means that once you have your brain connected to the digital world, probably it's not clear which part is you and which part is not you. Okay, so now you are sure that you are in your body, but if you are connected to the cloud and everything is shared there, like what you have in your smartphone today, so you have here, you have photos, you have videos, you have everything, but they are not here, they are in the cloud. You think they are in your space, but your space is not physical. Your space is there in the cloud, whatever it is, in remote servers. So once it happens with your brain, where are you? Are you in your body? No, you are not, because most of the information, most of your thoughts, most of your experience, of your memories, etc., will be in the cloud, will be outside your body, outside your brain. And this is what we call transhumans, because your human body becomes only a peripheral. So it's not relevant, it's not the most relevant part of you. It's just another part, but not the most important part. So how will be the world in such environment when that happens? We don't know, but this is what BCI can enable in the future, in the next years. So for the moment, I wanted to show this. Is a bit funny. There is a camera there, is mimicking an eye, so it could be placed if one person is blind. This person could extract the physical eye and implant this electronic eye, and this eye would be connected directly to the brain through a BCI. This is happening today in laboratories, so it's experimental, but it's happening now. Okay, it's not far future. It's not going to happen in 10 years. It's going to be here probably in less than 5 years. And also, we are experiencing a lot of people, a lot of patients that are using prosthetics and they are connected directly to the brain, so they can move. They have an artificial hand, and they can control it directly with the brain. Why is that? Because here there is a BCI as well. Okay. And you may have probably heard about about Neuralink. Neuralink is a company, is famous because it was promoted and it's sponsored and it's owned by Elon Musk. So you all know Elon Musk is now the owner of Twitter, is the owner of Tesla, is the owner of SpaceX, is the owner of many other companies, and Neuralink is one of his companies. Neuralink is famous because Elon Musk wants to produce a non-invasive, we will see next what does it mean, a non-invasive device that can measure your brain activity and connect to an external device. So Neuralink is wanting to make a BCI. And why it is important? It's not the best BCI, it's not the most advanced BCI that we can see, it's not the most complex, it's just an affordable BCI that anyone will be able to have. And this is what Elon Musk has done in most of his businesses, is doing something that is very innovative, but make it somehow affordable to a majority of people. And we will see probably Neuralink devices in 1 to 3 years maximum. I think probably between 1 and 2 years maximum. And they will allow very, very basic things. I'm not confident that it will be able to replicate our brain, the information in our brain in a digital device, or we can plug a memory store to increase our memory. I don't believe so. I think that Neuralink will be able just to measure some unidirectional activity from the brain to an external device, and then you will be able to control your TV and say, I want to see the TV, or I want to make a call, a phone call, these kind of things, very basic things like what we do today with the Google Assistant or Siri or whatever. It will be done directly thinking and not speaking, but that's my opinion. If we move forward, there is a much more ambitious project happening in Europe. There are many participants from Europe and outside Europe, called the Brain Project, the Human Brain Project. This is a project intended to understand the brain activity, understand how to measure the brain, understand how to plug any sensor in the brain to do specific things with our thoughts and the activity that we can do in our brain. So there are more than 150 participants in this consortium. It's a very, very large project with a lot of funding. And you have here very famous universities like Cambridge University, Oxford University, a lot of universities in many other countries in Europe, and many private companies, research centers, etc. Why this project is important? It's important because it means that there are many people and many institutions doing investment in the let me do this and doing investments in promoting the development of BCIs. So Elon Musk is doing some specific application, fully private capital. This is public capital, public investment. And both approaches are different. So one is producing something practical for not today but tomorrow, and the other one is for producing a much more ambitious scientific framework to produce much complex results in probably 5 years or more. But the outcomes of this project will come and start in laboratory stage very soon, and there are some already published from this project. It's been working since 5 years now, so it's working, it's producing results already. Okay, let me go to the next slide. Now we are see some methods. I have a lot of slides, but I don't want today to be boring explaining all the methods that we know to connect our brain with an electronic device. Just a very quick overview on the slides to highlight some points. The first one is we have two approaches: non-invasive BCIs and invasive BCIs. So what is a non-invasive BCI? Non-invasive means that you don't need to harm any part of your body. So you don't need to open the skin, you don't need to to stick, to ping anything or on your skull. You don't need anything. It's just like a wearable device. We can say that it's like a headset. It's like this microphone. So you use something totally externally to your body, and this means non-invasive. In the opposite, invasive means that you have to do some surgery. Okay, and the first one that we know is electroencephalogram, so EEG. This is very common, so probably some of you have run an encephalogram at some point in the hospital. It's done with some electrodes in covering all your brain externally, and they measure electricity. So the brain activity produces electricity, and these electrodes measure electricity. So the more sensors you have, the more accuracy you can have about the electricity that is being produced in your body. Of course, this is a prehistoric device of measuring brain activity, because here inside this head there are tens of hundreds of millions of neurons. So each neuron is producing electricity. So you are here measuring just the current on a specific part of the brain, but you cannot measure what's happening inside with high precision. Okay, and this is the main problem of these techniques. Additionally, these electrodes are externally placed, so you know that you have your brain. Outside your brain you have a skull, so it's bone, is 100% bone. Is very difficult to communicate through electricity or through electromagnetic fields with the other side of the skull, so between the brain and the outside. And also additionally, if you hadn't enough problems to communicate with your brain, additionally you have some liquid covering the brain because the brain is very, very soft, and it's a liquid that also helps in facilitating the electricity inside the brain, and this liquid also adds additional noise and reduce the power of the signal that we irradiate outside. Okay, so it's very difficult. There are problems of noise, there are problems of interference, etc., etc. And for this reason, we started to develop some additional methods. So the functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, is another technique. This is based on running magnetic fields and crossing our brain, and you get this kind of images. So probably you had one computer tomography that is very similar to this. And the problem with these methods is that you cannot use them in real time. You have to be laid down in a bed, and then a machine goes and measures your brain activity by doing some cycles. But you can measure high level brain activity, but you cannot measure if I'm thinking in switching on my TV, for example. Then we have another methods to trying to improve the accuracy of the measures. So near infrared spectroscopy, NIRS, this is very famous now in the research. It's using infrared, so it's measuring heat instead of magnetic fields. The heat that is produced by brain activity, but again, this is very difficult to measure. So you cannot measure the heat produced by a single neuron. You can measure the heat in a specific part of the brain, but how do you translate it into specific orders is also very difficult to do. And there are some additional techniques. These techniques are purely being tested in laboratory and are not producing any commercial device or any complete prototype. They are being tested. The PET, positron emission tomography, or the SPECT, so single positron emission computer tomography, the CAT, computerized axial tomography. These kind of things are based on launching rays of, for example, of electrons, positrons in our brain, and the hydrogen atoms, etc. And they are in a very, very early stage in terms of producing results. Let's see what we'll have in 1, 2, 3 years, but they are in a very experimental phase. We also have surface electromagnetic it's badly written, sorry, it's EGM. We have many different techniques that work non-invasive. The problem with non-invasive is always the same, is noise, the very weak power that that goes out our brain. So everything is inside a skull with liquid. Is very difficult to measure the brain activity with accuracy with a non-invasive BCI. So the alternative may be invasive BCIs. The problem with invasive BCIs is that they can become very, very accurate, and there are some initiatives that they are called very low invasive BCIs. So they only ping a very little. They only insert a very little ping in your skull, but the problem is always the same. You will need some treatment. You don't know how this strange object will react, how your body will react to that object, these kind of things. But they are very accurate. Here you have an example. So the intracortical electrode, this is or the electrocorticography is the result of inserting an intracortical electrode. So you can see there. So you open the head, you have here the brain, and then you put some sensors there, and you can measure with very, very high accuracy what's happening in that brain. The problem is that this is only done on animals in laboratories, because obviously this animal will not survive after this experiment. This is what we have today, and as I said before, there are some initiatives trying to develop some technologies that can cross this the skin, and can cross, even not cross the skull, but go right in contact with the skull, and then read what is behind, what is beyond, with much more accuracy, without the need to damage the body of the animal or the person in the future. Okay. So there are some other initiatives. So if you don't want to open the brain, there are alternatives. This is not purely a BCI, because it's not a brain-computer interface, but there are some options consisting on connecting the nerves in other parts of the body, for example, in your hand, in your arm, in your leg. So it's what it's called targeted muscle reinnervation. So you connect a nerve, a specific nerve, to a computer interface, and this is much easier, especially if there are people that had an accident and these people need lost, for example, a hand or a leg. You have direct access to the nerves there, and you can connect them to let this person control with these nerves the prosthetics, that is robotic prosthetics, for example. But it could be also used to control your remote TV, for example. You could have here inserted some pins and connected to the nerves in your hand. So when you think that when you strengthen your arm this way, you could produce an effect in an electronic device. This is something very rudimentary, but it can also be used to provide precise orders to electronic devices. Here you have, for example, the prototype of a small pin that can be placed under the skin. One important thing here is to mention that the brain adapts to everything. Okay, so the nerves in your hand control your hand, but this is because your brain thinks that when you think on closing your hands closed. But if this nerve operates another things and switches on the TV, then your brain will understand that, and this nerve, even if this nerve is here in your hand, will no longer be associated by you with your hand. So you will think just that you switch on the TV, and then the TV will get switched on. Okay, and the nerve will be here with a pin like that here. So this is something that can be also experimented. You can connect some nerves in your skin, in different part of your skin, and your brain will learn, with time, it will learn that activating these nerves will have a specific impact outside. Okay, so this is probably a more credible way to achieve BCI in the short term than the previous one. And also we have invasive electromagnetic measures. The difference with the EC, the electrocardiogram, and the EEG and EMG is that you put devices here that are inside. Okay, is not more than that. This is not to me. This is not a more complex technology than that. In this case, is intramuscular, so it can be placed outside the brain, outside the skull, in some other part of the body, and this way you can do an invasive procedure. Okay, but it's the same principle as than EEG, but outside and with this invasive technology. Okay. What's next? My idea today is to give you an overview of what is being done in the world of BCI. So now you have a more or less exhaustive picture of the state of the art. The idea or the question is what is coming in the next years, and this is something that has some unsolved questions yet. So by the way, if you have any questions, I'm using a new tool that allows me to answer the chat in real time, and probably we will use it in future videos. But anyway, this is open to anyone. If you are watching this video after the live broadcast, you have here my website, so you can contact me, and I will be glad to answer to your questions. And of course, if you have something important to say about future technologies, or you are an expert in your field and you want to participate in the tower, please contact me and let me know, because I'll be glad to have a chat with you, so everyone in the tower can understand and can know what you're doing in your research group or whatever. And for everyone, for all the sentinels of the tower, please subscribe to this channel, because it's important for visibility. And I will continue my presentation now with what we were speaking about, the unsolved questions. So once we know what we can do with BCIs, it's very easy to think that in healthcare we can apply BCIs for people that that has some disabilities, physical disabilities, in arms, in legs, or even in sensors, in vision, in audition, etc. The first question is what we want to solve, and there are many research initiatives being done for healthcare, and we will see the first outcomes and the first breakthroughs in healthcare applications, and then they will be translated to the general public, the consumer applications. But additionally, and in parallel, the second question is an ethics question, is what enhancements are appropriate to make, including super intelligence, but not only super intelligence. If we are going to replace, for example, the arm of a person with a robotic arm, do we want to implant a similar arm, or are we going to implant an arm that is 10 times or 100 times stronger? Because it's technically possible, probably. But do we want to do that? Do we want this person to have 10 times or 100 times the strength of a regular person? That's an ethical question that we must decide. And obviously, also important is the cost and the access to this technology. Today, as I say, it's most of these technologies are in research states, experimental states, and they are very expensive because they are not mass manufactured. And this is something that we will need to solve in the future as these BCIs become more and more frequent. There are also technical issues in BCIs, as I said before, especially the problem with the brain is that signals in the neuronal signals are very low. They have very low power and they are very difficult to measure. And the problem is that the device has to be very accurate and very close to the neuron to be effective. As I said before, there are also problems with compatibility if we are going to do invasive or semi-invasive, very low invasive techniques. But once we are able to solve that, and I believe that we will be able to solve that probably in less than 5 years, believe me, there will be endless possibilities for the application of BCIs. Let's see here a diagram of how the skin is connected to the brain. This is something, let me switch my camera off for a moment. Obviously, there are nerves that connect each sensor in the skin with the brain, so we can sense the environment through our skin, and this goes to the brain. This is curious. For example, there are 7 types of skin sensors or receptors. Pain, cold, warm, and 4 additional for pressure, for pressuring the different parts of the skin in the different parts of our body. So if we can replicate this, we could make artificial skin as well. Okay, and this can be also done. This is a representation of artificial skin, and if we can do this, we can extend our capabilities because we can replace, for example, a full leg or a full arm, and we will have it connected to the brain, and not only to the brain, but we will be able to have it connected to a computer. And why this is important? Because let me switch my camera on again. Okay. No, I'm going to use this scene better. Okay. The idea is that when we are in virtual reality or augmented reality, and I have another video about that I recommend you to watch, we need a very complex interaction with the environment. Okay, now we have only the virtual glasses, we have the 2 remotes in our hands, and that's it. But if we want to feel different things, and if we want to have a measurement of the environment that can be fed to the virtual environment, artificial skin can be good, because you may have, for example, a cover. You can have a shirt like this one, but this shirt will have not like this one. Obviously, it will be more stretch to the body, but the idea is that this shirt can have a skin, artificial skin on the outside, so it can measure the environment around you and feed it into the virtual world, into the metaverse, and then on the inside it can have some actuators to activate on your actual skin. Okay, so if something happens in the metaverse, it's translated into your physical arm. Okay, and this is something that could be that could integrate completely your body in the digital world, in the metaverse. And probably this has a lot to do in the future, not for the moment. For the moment, this kind of developments are done only for medical applications, for patients that lost their skin, their real skin. But in the future, as I said, we could have a dress made of digital skin, virtual artificial skin, and also the actuators on the inner side to activate our physical body. Another very interesting capability of BCI. So exoskeletons. Exoskeletons are, you have seen exoskeletons in movies and probably in somehow on the news. Exoskeletons are robotic arms and robotic legs mostly that are synchronized with your physical body. So when you move a leg, the robot that you see here moves this part exactly the same as your leg, with the difference that this part can be made of steel or titanium, and this way you could leverage, like in this case, this person is leveraging probably 200, 300 kilograms of any stuff without any effort. Okay, so all the effort is being made by the robotic arm, and also obviously sustaining the effort with the robotic leg and body. Okay, this is very difficult to implement today because the problem is that now it's done by the movement of the body. But if you could synchronize somehow your orders to your brain, from your brain to your arms and your legs, with using a BCI with the robot, you could even run or even fly. You could have wings and you could even fly using an exoskeleton. Okay, and this is something that we will probably see in the future. There are some more examples here for different activities, and this is something that we are seeing more and more. All these exoskeletons are normally activated, as I say, by the movement of your arm or your leg, not using a BCI. But when BCIs are available, they will become far more fluent and faster. Okay. Also, there are some funny initiatives. This is called the HIT SRL concept, and it's made in Asia. And this is an exoskeleton. Can be seen like that. The idea is that it provides 4 additional arms to your 2 physical arms. The problem now is that these 4 arms have to be managed by you. So you have to use your physical arms to program or to move the additional arms, then they get fixed, and then you use the rest of the arms. If you have a BCI, you could be able to manage or to handle these 4 arms plus your 2 arms, so 6 arms in real time to do things. Here you can see some examples. In this case, you could climb a wall using 6 arms, or you could be hanging or whatever. There are many possibilities if you connect a BCI to this kind of exoskeleton. Sorry, I went backwards. And this is the status today. As I say, this is a passive arm. You need to move it, then it gets fixed, and you can do additional things like this one or whatever. Okay. So the next slide is more realistic and much simpler. Is what kind of headset device are available today to measure the brain activity? They are all non-invasive devices, so you can buy them. Some of them are even available on Amazon or on the internet, on specific stores, and you can even connect them using Bluetooth to your computer. You will be able to measure your brain activity. Some ones are very, very basic, like this one or this one, so they are providing mostly very basic alpha and beta waves. So if you are, if you are relaxed, you produce alpha waves. If your brain produces alpha waves, if you are more active in normal life, your brain uses beta waves. I don't see the application of this, but if you want to play, this is a device that you can buy, and this one has 5 channels. Channels are each electrode, so this has 1, 2, 3, and 2 additional that we cannot see inside this headset. And also, the problem with these devices is that they are very limited, so they provide additional motion sensors like the ones in your smartphone. So if you turn your head, or you rise, or you move on one direction or another, this device can also provide this information to your computer. Is not I don't see a lot of value on that. There are some others that are more complex. This one with 14 sensors, this one with 32 sensors. These devices are not available normally to the general public. This one you can probably buy. This one is more difficult to get. But they are mostly used in experiments in laboratories. Okay, but there are some companies producing this kind of devices. So if you are a university, you will be able to buy. It's not cheap at all, but you can buy these devices, and you will receive it delivered to your address as commercially available. And one curiosity is that we have also already a game called Mindball that is played with the brain. You can see here 2 players with a device. It's a non-invasive device, very basic, and there is a ball on the table, and you manage this ball with your alpha and beta waves. So if you are more relaxed, you move the ball in one direction. If you are more active, in the opposite direction. So it's a matter of who is able to control his or her emotions faster to manage the ball and win the game. It's a very, very basic game, but it's a curiosity that there is already a game that is played purely with the brain. And my final slide is this one. The first slide, let me go to the first slide, give me 1 second. The first slide was called Brain-Computer Interfaces, Please Better Ask My Doc. And why did I say that? The future, and this is going to be a bit shocking, but once you have superhuman powers, so you can expand your memory, you can expand your intelligence by plugging an interface, an electronic device in your brain using a PCI. Why can't you have a super doc capabilities? I mean, why can't you connect a device to increase the intelligence of your doc, or the memory, or even the possibility to speak? It's technically possible. So the same way that we will become smarter, the same technology can be used on any animal to make this animal speak, for example, or think in abstract concepts, for example, or be connected to a repository of images or situations to learn faster. These kind of things will be able in the future. So my question is, will pets of rich people have more intelligence than people with less resources at some point on the planet? I believe so. And what will this bring to society? Will be fostering animal rights over human rights, or some rights of some humans in certain points of the planet, or we will not? There are many questions related to ethical issues of BCIs and the use of transhuman technology in enhancing our powers, but probably I have never seen, and I also have never read about the possibilities that these interfaces can be used on animals. Because remember, now we have a lot of requisites to do surgery or this kind of things, experiment with this on humans, but we don't have these restrictions in animals. So maybe one person or one laboratory prefers to continue the development of BCIs in animals, and we will find probably an ape or a dog or a horse or whatever with more intelligence than a human. And it will be regulated? I don't know. I think that there is a lot to come in the next years, very interesting things, and we will be here in the tower, from the tower, analyzing the future and going beyond the future. Please subscribe to the tower. It's very easy, it's free, and you will help us to grow. Thank you very much, and let's see in the next video.